Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Toney, and this is the Anchored in Hope podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. And today our guest is Samantha Hunter. Thanks for being here, Sam.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're so glad that you're here and can't wait to hear your story. But before we start, we always ask our guest what superpower they would have if they could have a superpower. So, Sam, have you been thinking about it?
I have.
All right. Drum roll. What would the superpower be?
I would love to have a superpower of like gardening. Like I could just, whatever I wanted to eat, I could just make it grow right then and there.
Oh.
Have an amazing yard that I don't have to work for.
It's just there.
Yeah,
I
shade,
love that.
any kind of plant that I want.
That would be so fun. And it would be so economical because you could just go pick your strawberries instead of buy them. I love that. It's so fun. That's a good one. Nobody's come up with that one yet. That's good.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to dive into part of Samantha's story today. And Sam, before we kind of get to the heart of the story, I want to let's take us back maybe to kind of how you grew up and maybe your thoughts about what marriage and motherhood would be like for you in the future. What were your expectations?
Well, I grew up with one sister, and we're twins, and that was really fun. And so I grew up kind of in what would be considered like a smaller average size family. Never really thought of having, I always wanted a family, but never really thought about it until I got older in college, and just always thought it would be really fun to be part of a large family. And I met Jesse at Purpose Church. We were both interning, and he was from a really large family, 5 siblings plus and some half siblings. And every time we go over for Christmas or Thanksgiving, there was just so much life and so many things going around.
A lot of activity with that many people, I can imagine. Yes.
And when we got married, we both had this strong desire to have a large family. The number that we talked about was 4 or 5, depending on, how I felt.
Let's just see how the first one goes, right?
But but we definitely wanted a lot of kids. And I just dreamed of having a household full of lots of children laughing and playing. And I just imagined holidays and meals times, and motherhood was something I really looked forward to.
Yeah. Did you want to have twins? Like, did you
No.
a twin? No. Been there, done that. No,
yeah,
thanks.
I'd rather do one at a time.
God bless your parents for navigating it. My sister has twins too, so yeah, I know.
Does she just have one set?
One set,
Yeah.
yeah. She had 4 though, and then she had 3 girls and 1 boy, and then she was like, "Well, let's try and see if we get one more boy to play with the boy," and then she got pregnant with 2 girls.
Oh my!
So she ended up with 5 girls and
Nice.
1 boy. So yeah, they're awesome. They're such a great family. Well, okay, so you guys got married. So you met Jesse here at the church, and you guys got married. And so did you want to start right away to have kids, or did you guys kind of want to pursue your careers and kind of get comfortable in marriage for a little while? Or tell us about those early years.
Well, when you get married, you kind of have, you think life is just going to happen as you dream it and as you will it. And so, we thought, we'll take 2 years off and then everything will be perfect and we'll start our family. And we ran into a lot of struggles actually earlier on in our marriage, just with finances, health things with my husband. And so we really weren't able to get started until, even started thinking about having a family until our 4th year of marriage.
Okay. So you guys were still real young though, so that wasn't a problem necessarily. Yeah. So you guys decided to try to get pregnant, and how did that go?
So I was 29 at the time, and I remember being really scared. It just felt like a big jump, and we just weren't really sure, how long it would take, but we got pregnant right away. We had our daughter Ariel, and it was a great pregnancy, really no complications. Just everything about it was wonderful. And
beautiful, healthy little girl. Lots of blonde curls. Yes. She's so adorable. Yes.
And so we just thought, our plan then was, well, let's wait till she's a year and start again. And still having this dream of having lots of kids. And things just didn't really quite go as we planned the second time around. And we had, a lot of friends and family just encourage us and just tell us, just relax and just breathe and don't stress out about it. It will happen.
Relax.
And so,
sure, easy for you to say.
Yes. And I remember it was challenging because a lot of my friends around me, they just were able to get pregnant right away. And something happens when you're a woman and you're trying to sustain and give life. And when that doesn't happen as you plan, you think something's wrong, and that really actually has an opportunity to attack, I think, your womanhood or
your identity.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, like why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? Yeah. How did that impact your relationship with the Lord?
I have learned just through other struggles and instances I've been through that I can trust Jesus and that he's faithful. And although this was really heartbreaking for my husband and I, it was just an opportunity to run to Jesus and to cling to him and to trust that he has our best in mind, and that he has a perfect plan, and that he is always faithful. And even during times when we can't understand or see the extent of his faithfulness, that doesn't change his character. And so it was really hard. The first year we prayed a lot, and I just felt the Lord speaking to me and telling me, I will answer your prayer. But then the second year rolled around, and I thought, oh my goodness. We started wrapping our mind around the fact that this probably was not going to happen. And it's funny because 2 years doesn't seem like that long, but when you're in it and you don't see an end to it, it seems like a very long time.
Month after. I mean, that's 24 months of disappointment.
Yeah. And something really spoke out to me. I remember hearing a speaker say, we should ask the Lord how many children he wants for us. And that's part of his plan too. And sometimes we're so quick to say, no, just one, just two. And I kind of reversed that for myself. Like, I wanted 4 children, and it wasn't dependent on if Jesse and I are good parents, but what was the Lord's plan for us. And I had, approached the Lord that way of how many, but didn't think, well, maybe it's just one, And so that brought some comfort to me, trusting that God has a plan. And
the perfect number in mind for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a helpful thing to think through, because I think people always are like, oh, how many do you want to have?
Yeah.
Well, I want to have. And to really give that question to the Lord and to make that a prayerful kind of submission to him. Like, I submit to what your number is for us.
Yeah.
That's so good. I think that's really helpful to think through and encourage people to pray through. So, well, how was it with navigating it with other families as they, seem to sneeze and get pregnant, right?
Yeah.
That's got to be a challenging thing to interact with family and friends or, well-meaning relatives who are like, when are you going to have another one?
Yes.
And those words, I mean, did they get grading? Was it like nails on a chalkboard?
We were pretty upfront with everyone. I think one of the things that was really hard is sometimes I felt that my friends felt they couldn't share their good news of being pregnant because they didn't want to hurt our feelings. Yes. And that was something to celebrate, and that was something that we wanted to be a part of, that celebration and bringing in new life, and it wasn't dependent on our circumstances. And as far as family, we got a lot of questions. I tried to remind them that although we wanted more, God may have a different plan.
Back off, people.
And then I just started telling them, well, then you need to pray and bring that up to the Lord. And so, sometimes when this is how we felt, that with Ariel, you feel that she's going to miss out as an only sibling, or there's going to be something missing in her life, and in our life, not having more kids. But just reminding ourselves again that God has a plan for each of us, and it looks different with each family, with each person. So it was challenging, but I think after 2 years, people stopped asking. They kind of gave up. Yeah.
Did you give up?
We did, actually. We just thought, and we had been approached, we talked to our doctor, and the option for fertility treatments did come up. For us, for Jesse and I, we decided that was not the route that we wanted to go. When we brought it up with the Lord in our situation, we didn't feel that that's what he was
kind of leading you guys to do. Okay.
And we just prayed, Lord, we trust you with our family, and we trust that you have, the right plan in mind for us with how many. So if you want us to get pregnant, then you're going to have to intervene. And I did give up hope after 2 years as far as thinking that was a possibility. I just thought, if it hasn't happened now, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I kind of have to start living my life as a family of 3.
Yeah.
So
now there's a number of women in the Bible that really struggle, to have have children that were considered barren. Did you find yourself kind of connecting with them, or turning to those scriptures for inspiration or hope? Or
yeah, I did, and reading them, I was so encouraged and thankful that we didn't struggle having Ariel, and that we had Ariel. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, because I think that would have been so painful to not experience motherhood at all, and so, but I did. But mostly, I was really encouraged just by verses that talked about the Lord's faithfulness, how the name of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous run to it, in Proverbs, and just claiming just who Jesus is, and just asking him for that comfort and the peace, and knowing that he is with us in this situation.
Right. And how was your husband walking through this with you?
He was sad. Yeah. He, I don't think he ever gave up hope, actually. He, so that was really good. And he really still wants a very large family. But, we just all have our different times of getting through things and different way of doing that. So he's great, but I think it really hurt. It was
really
him.
hard
Yeah.
for him too. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know just recently you felt like the Lord was calling you to go on a missions trip. So tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
So really exciting. One of the blessings about not being pregnant during the last 2 years, I have felt that the Lord has, called me to a lot of opportunities of singing, which is something I love and am passionate about. Kind of do plays and different stuff like that I wouldn't be able to do if I was pregnant. And so one of those opportunities was our worship team got invited to a conference called Fearless in Africa. It had stemmed from us being in a conference with a TM ministry here at our church, and the Pastor Marithi had saw us and invited us over there. And so we had prepared for, we had talked about it for a year and started preparing, I believe, 6 months in advance, seeing that it is a reality and that we were going, and we had a team.
So awesome.
Put together and kind of marking off everything on our list of things to do. And one of them was getting our immunizations. And I hate shots, so I waited till like the last,
the last 6 weeks. As long as possible.
Yes. And waited till the last 6 weeks, and I went in, or maybe it was the last month, went in, and one of the questions they asked was, is there any way that you can be pregnant? And I thought, chances are really slim. But interesting enough, we had a friend that told my husband 2 weeks prior that he had a dream I was pregnant, and actually it made Jesse really excited. And I was a little bit, pessimistic. I said, well, don't get your hopes up, Right. I mean,
it was just a dream.
Yeah, it was, people had dreams before and shared them with us, and so, it hadn't happened, and so, and it was more of just kind of, it wasn't as though the person thought this is a word from the Lord. It was just sharing a random dream. So, but when I was asked if there was any chance I could be pregnant, actually that triggered in my mind, and I thought, there's always a chance. It's really, really slim. And I told them that, and they said, if you're pregnant, this is really, like, you cannot get this shot because it can really harm the baby. And so I thought, okay, well, when's the last, how much time do I have before I leave for Africa that the shot needs to be in my system? And they said a week before. So at that point I would know if I was pregnant. I thought, okay, well, I pushed it back this long. I don't have a problem pushing it back.
A few more weeks.
So a week before we left for Africa, and I felt no different, and took a test so that I could go get my shots, and what do you know? We're pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
So
could you even believe it?
No, both my husband and I just...
Did you take like 20 pregnancy tests?
Yes. And, we had like the Dollar Tree ones. So I said, go back and get one that we know will work,
Go get the good one at Target.
Yes, yeah. And so we were just shocked. God's timing. And so actually that triggered a bunch of other questions and some fears, as far as I know we looked on the CDC website. It said, do not travel to Africa if you're pregnant. I didn't have any immunizations. My husband was really worried. And, and I had, but the craziest thing about this was that I had seen God provide for this trip in an amazing way. I mean, I asked for support, to raise support, and we had agreed that if we hadn't raised it, we would pay the difference. Yeah. And I would say, 2 weeks before, I was going to have to pay, a couple $100s. I just prayed to the Lord, and then all of a sudden, someone donated, and I was $1,500 over the amount that I was supposed to. Yes, and so, I mean, that came through. There were so many other things that just, I felt very confident this is where the Lord was calling me at this time. And I just, I know that the Lord knows every mosquito by name, and he can call them away, and
cast those mosquitoes.
Yes. And so I was nervous. I'm not going to lie. Like there was that nervousness factor. Sure. And I was also sick being pregnant in the beginning. So the first trimester is always a little rough for me. But I just felt like the Lord had called me to be obedient before I was pregnant, and that didn't change while I was pregnant.
Wow.
And so I went on this trip. It was awesome. Still do not know like what my specific purpose on that trip was, but just to be a part of a team and to experience Africa. I'd always told the Lord, I'd love to travel internationally and sing and be in, in worship.
And he took you to the ends of the earth.
He did. And then blessed me with this beautiful baby that I'm pregnant with. Yeah.
So awesome.
And I know that God doesn't necessarily answer all of our prayer requests like we sometimes want him to. And I would say this even if, because I said this before I was pregnant, that the Lord is always faithful and he's always good. And there are times, when it was really hard and really dark. And that doesn't mean that, we don't mourn over things that we've lost or mourn over things that we have to struggle through. But God is so good and he's so active. And so I've been able to see that firsthand. But I see that even more during our journey of infertility, just how he provided the friendships and the support and just his encouragement by his spirit through that time. So,
Sam, what would you say would be something that's helpful for people who have friends who are going through infertility? What would be something, because I'm sure you've heard it all and seen it all, and sometimes people say well-meaning things and they aren't necessarily received that way. So what would you say are some things that are helpful to be a good friend or family member to someone who's going through infertility?
I would say to encourage that person that they are a good mom or dad, that they that the Lord sees them, and that this is in no way a result of how they did the first time, or even if they don't have children, that they are that the Lord recognizes them, that they're valuable, that and we all know this. We all know that we aren't defined if we have children or not, but it's really just great to be reminded about that. Yeah. And what wasn't so helpful for us, I had a lot of people run up to me. I think it's because I'm on the worship team. They see me on stage, you know, and they were, everyone gets so excited as you start having children that they just want to be a part of that process. And so I had people ask me if I was pregnant all the time when I wasn't.
That's also helpful.
You have like a fun weekend where you're just not really
food baby
going on. Food baby.
Little baggy shirt action going on. Yeah.
And so those are just common things. But people get excited, but I would say and then don't be afraid to share your life. If you are someone who the Lord has said, I want to give you a large family, that's part of my plan for you. Don't be afraid to share that with friends that can't have children, because at least I know for myself and for Jesse that we are so excited about life. We want to celebrate that. We'd love for it to be us, but if it's not, that doesn't take away from the value and just the beauty of new life coming into the world.
And being able to celebrate that with your friends.
Exactly.
That's so good.
So,
And how about any words of encouragement that you'd have to someone who's going through a similar thing, an infertility struggle?
I would just say, again, that God is always faithful, that his plans are perfect, and his ways are beyond our thinking and our understanding, and he sees your pain. And I know that he cries along with us, but he's so good. And just hang on, because I think we look back and we can see the Lord move, and as we look back, we can see his markers of faithfulness and his markers of movement in our life. And so I feel for anyone who has to go through infertility, or and I know each infertility story is different and journey is different, but the Lord sees you and he knows you, and he cares, and he's working, he's active.
Absolutely. So remain faithful because he's faithful, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. So good. Well, thank you, Samantha, for
you,
sharing some of your story here. I'm so happy that you could be here and share that. And we're so excited about this new baby. So we will look forward to seeing what God does. And we still don't know if it's a boy or girl yet.
No, I don't.
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right, we're getting close. We're getting close. I'm like, oh, should we announce it? Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. And both Samantha and I want to encourage you to anchor your life in hope and anchor your soul in Jesus.